What about the criticism you've no doubt heard many times, David, about it gives a third party, like in this case in BC, the Green Caucus, a disproportionate amount of influence that, they won 3 seats, about 17% of the popular vote. Some people would say they're the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
They've got much more clout than perhaps they even deserve. So what's thoughts
Well,
on that?
again, look at BC and you look at some of the decisions the NDP government has made around Site C. Very unpopular with Greens, very unpopular with the Green Caucus, and yet they were able to go ahead and make that decision. So the tail wagging the dog argument certainly doesn't hold true in British Columbia. There are some countries, I think, perhaps Israel is a good example, where they have unusual proportional representation rules. And it is possible, for example, in Israel, for small religiously based parties to hold sort of disproportionate power. But nobody in Canada is arguing we should adopt Israel's system or Italy's system. We're saying, look at Germany or look at the Scandinavian countries. They have very good systems, often with a threshold. You have to get 5% of the vote in order to get a seat in the national legislature. We're saying that's the kind of, Germany, the Scandinavian countries, those are the kind of countries we should be looking to, not Israel or Italy.
So I can pick up on that 5% because I no doubt we're going to be hearing over the coming months as the referendum heats up about fringe parties. And as moving to a proportional representation, it's going to invite everybody out of the woodwork and the forests of BC to, we already have multiple parties running elections. Many of them only get 500 votes, 1,000 votes, maybe a few thousand votes. But what about that as a concern that this is going to fragment the party system or complicate it and encourage what some people call one-issue parties or fringe parties into the process?
I think there is some basis for that. For example, I think it's likely that the provincial Liberals will probably fragment. I see conservatives, real, true conservatives, actually forming their own party and getting seats in the legislature. So I see that as possible. But the idea that extremist parties will take over, I don't think that's realistic in our political culture. Even in sort of Germany or in the Netherlands, where they do actually have some fringe political support, the extremist parties are really marginalized, and they don't form government. They never form government. Contrast that with the United States, where we have a fellow who's the president of the United States, who many would characterize as extremist, really outside the American political culture. And he was able to grab power by taking over one of the mainstream parties, the Republican Party, which is really struggling with its identity now, right?
Absolutely.
So I would say there's much more danger around extremist takeovers in first-past-the-post systems. We see it in south of the border.
Okay.